Welcome back to the Morning Show here on Arise News. It's now time to take a look at news stories making headlines around the globe. We'll begin in Nigeria, where the government has rejected the designation of Nigeria by the United States as a country that engages in or tolerates severe violations of religious freedom, saying that the iniquitous tag stemmed from an orchestrated narrative that has long been discredited. Meanwhile, the presidency has allayed fears that the U.S. description of Nigeria as a religion-intolerant nation could have consequences for the country, assuring the people that the U.S. government's decision to place Nigeria on its watch list carries no immediate implication, also stressing that the two countries would deliberate on the matter early next year. Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, while refuting the report, says Nigerians enjoyed unfettered freedom to practice their religion and blamed failed politicians and disgruntled elements, some of them supposedly respected leaders, he says, for latching on to religion as their trump card, especially in the run-up to the last general elections to oust the Buhari administration. Dr. Abati, were you surprised when you saw this designation of Nigeria being added to that special watch list by the United States?
No, I was not surprised because you recall that some concerned Nigerians, particularly Christian elders from the Middle Belt, had sent petitions previously to the British Foreign Office and to the British House of Commons to accuse the Nigerian government of encouraging, accommodating, and promoting religious persecution in Nigeria. And also, the statement from the U.S., also coincides with a report by the Christian Broadcasting Network, and also a group led by a member of the House of Lords in the UK, Baroness Cox, indicating that there is clear evidence of religious persecution in Nigeria. Now, this is unfortunate because Section 38 of the Nigerian Constitution recognizes the freedom of thought, conscience, and religion, and that's constitutional. Section 10 of the Nigerian Constitution forbids the adoption of any religion as any state religion. Now, the only gray area in this is with regard to whether secret societies constitute, freedom of thought, religion, and conscience under the Nigerian Constitution. Because Section 38, subsection 4, says secret societies, membership of secret societies, is forbidden, particularly for public officials. But this is ambiguous because in the case, registered trustees of AMOC versus Awoniyi, the Supreme Court, Pawale JSC, as it then was, could not reach, could not offer any declaratory order in this regard. So the position of the law remains that Nigerians are free, to believe in whatever they want to believe in. But in reality, we all know that since the Matasine riots of between 1980 and 1992, and the issues we've had with religion in Plateau State, in Bauchi State, in Kaduna State, that there is this perpetual conflict between Christians and Muslims in the country. And the indication is that under the present administration, the government seems to have been, anti-Christian and pro-Muslim. And that's what the U.S. report of 2018 on religious freedom, is talking about. And they give specific examples. The conflict between the military and the Zazaki group and the continued detention of Zazaki. Zazaki is, of course, Muslim, but the leader of the belongs to a different sect from some other sect. The
Shiites, not the Sunnis.
Then second, the Fulani herdsmen and farmer herders conflict.
Clash.
It is assumed that these Fulani herdsmen, yes, they may be fighting over land and territory, but at the same time, they are doing that to promote, their own particular brand of religion. Three, the U.S. report also cites the example of Boko Haram. And that Boko Haram is some kind of religious warfare against persons of other faiths. Now, it is natural for the Nigerian government to say, look, this is not true. Our constitution recognizes religious freedom. Nobody is being persecuted by the state. That is what the Nigerian government should say.
Yes.
But what I take away from it is the indication from Minister of Information, Lai Mohammed, that early in the year, the Nigerian government will engage the U.S. authorities and others to prove their point that nobody is being persecuted for religious purposes in Nigeria. So they've said what they should say. As to whether this has any immediate consequence, well, Nigeria is a member of the international community. anytime we get a feedback from the international community, in this case from the United States and the United Kingdom, and the Christian Broadcasting Network, there are things we should note. These are words of caution.
Yes.
These are subtle reminders that, look, you have to do more in this particular area. Exactly. And I think that Nigeria should take that as a wake-up call to expand the space more for freedom of thought, religion, and conscience within its territory. As for the United States, it may even be a signal that the United States may, on the long run, consider sanctions against Nigeria if the situation gets out of hand, as they are alleging, right? So it's not enough to just dismiss. It's important to know that, this is, an admonition, a warning that the Nigerian government should take seriously.
And what I find intriguing is the reaction so far. We've had reactions from the Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, and we've had the President to react, Garba Shehu, saying that the two countries will actually discuss further next year. But when Alhaji Lai Mohammed says, this is the work of disgruntled elements who were trying to overthrow the president last year in the last general elections by tagging the farmer headers clashes as a religious battle, and that it is this the U.S. has, fed itself on, and it is misleading. He described this report as misleading. I find that very intriguing, coming from the Minister of Information and Culture.
Well, we should know that the State Department of the United States is not a frivolous, department. And for the Secretary of State, to come forward and say this is what we have observed in Nigeria, that will be based on intelligence. And don't forget that when the Chibok girls were abducted and the list was published, the international narrative was that, look, these were mostly Christians. Even the Dapchi girls, yes, they were mostly students in the Christian school. So the Western world bought into the narrative that, look, Christians are not really very safe in Nigeria, and that there is a conflict between, Muslims and Christians, and that there is a North-South dichotomy. Although we try to correct that narrative and say that the North is not religiously monolithic, but that's what is out there. What the Nigerian government needs to do is to take logical steps, provide more security, to change that narrative. It's not enough to just say we are a sovereign state, don't dabble into our affairs. No, we're part of an international community, and we are bound by standards of international engagement. Nigeria also being a signatory, to many conventions about the freedom of thought. Article 9, for example, of the European Union Court of Human Rights, talks about the same thing. Yes. And it's the same thing in the article, the Charter on Human and People's Rights in Africa. So, we can't play the ostrich.
Indeed.
We need to take it more seriously. And as I keep pointing out, religion is a very volatile, sensitive subject. It's not something that we can play with. We saw it with Boko Haram. We have seen it with the Matasine riots. We have seen the crisis that, religion has caused and continues to cause in Plateau State, in Kaduna State, in Bauchi State. It's something we should address and not blame so-called failed politicians and disgruntled elements. Who are those failed politicians? Who are those disgruntled elements? Elections are meant to be won and lost, right? Yes. So you win, you lose. So it doesn't mean you are a failed politician. You may win another day.
Indeed. We need to promote religious freedom more. And to another story now, the Nigerian government says there's a likelihood that Boko Haram insurgents would carry out chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear, and explosive attacks in the future. According to reports, this is contained in the 60-page document entitled National Security Strategy, earlier released by the Office of Babangida Mungunu, the National Security Advisor. The document emphasizes the need for increased collaboration among security agencies to combat security threats in the country. It says the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, ISIS, a terrorist group with which Boko Haram has an alliance, is seeking to possess CBRNE weapons. It says if ISIS obtains the weapons, Boko Haram will not stop at deploying them in its attacks. Well, according to the document, the country will strengthen national financial systems and collaborate with international systems as well in tracking terrorist financing. The new National Security Strategy document that was revised, 2014-2015 document was revised and launched by the president recently. A lot of security analysts have said one thing this document has failed to do is to really portray how security agencies will collaborate and share information. They also say what is missing there, as much as the government tries to portray this as a people-oriented security strategy, it is more on state. It also does not spell out really the functions of, for instance, private security.
Well, you know, when that document was announced, one point that I made was that before the president giving his approval, you know, the document should be thrown up, you know, made available for public debate so that other stakeholders can make inputs. Yes, it is true that the national security strategy is meant to be reviewed, revised every 5 years. And that's what they've done. But we've been getting the details and some discussion is arising. So what is going to happen? Would the government, you know, revise it? But we need to go on a short break because I'd like to respond to the point about whether there is enough provision made for collaboration or not. It's still the morning show. We'll take a short break now. When we return, the program will continue. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to the Morning Show here on Arise News. We're still taking a look at news making the headlines across the globe, and we're talking about the new security strategy in Nigeria revised. That security report released that ISIS and Boko Haram deploying new weapons. But you wanted to make a point about collaboration and that strategy.
Yeah, quickly, because you said part of the criticism is that you know, the document does not make enough provision for interagency collaboration.
Yes.
And I was saying that, on the contrary, what the National Security Advisor has been pointing out, either with regard to the management of the border, which was disclosed to be part of the strategy, is also that, look, particularly with regard to Boko Haram, the Nigerian government having realized that there is a greater risk, because it's a greater risk.
Indeed.
If you are going to have chemical weapons, biological weapons, radiological weapons, nuclear weapons, and explosives being used with support from, you know, the ISIS and the ISIL. Now, that means that we face, you know, more dreadful prospects. And what the National Security Advisor pointed out is that, look, there will be greater interagency collaboration, what he calls a whole of government strategy. You know, that every department of the Nigerian government will be involved to check this. And they will be looking at upgrading cybersecurity measures, you know, checking our borders, you know, making sure a lot is done with regard to aviation. Also, partnership with international agencies, particularly with regard to technology, to track, you know, financing, you know, terrorist financing. So there is an element of collaboration, you know, at various levels involved in it. But again, will Nigeria also think of upgrading the capacity of our security agencies, engaging non-state actors, you know, who may be, you know, civil society groups in this regard, you know, who may be able to provide some kind of help, either with intelligence or not. And then would there be proper funding, and would there be seriousness on the part of the various agencies of government? And would the president, or if you like, the presidency, you know, put in place the infrastructure for deploying the necessary political will to make sure that Nigeria levels up, you know, its fight against terrorism. So to that extent, you know, I think there is a provision, there is an awareness that there is need for collaboration and, you know, partnerships, and we hope that that is done. The chemical weapons, nuclear weapons, I mean, we should even make sure that that does not even happen in the first place. So that it doesn't happen, and then we begin to deal with the consequences.
Yeah, we should be proactive. And now let's bring in our sports analyst, Aaron Akarijola, for some sport headlines. Hello, Aaron. Great to see you.
Yeah, good morning. So how's the weekend?
Great.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good to have you here.
Yes, and let's start it off from yesterday's finals in football, as SSC Lazio beat Juventus 3-1. And their second win over the Turin Giants in little more than 2 weeks to win the Italian Super Cup on Sunday. They are now meeting between the Coppa Italia winners and Serie A champions. What grabbed the headline was Cristiano Ronaldo for the first time losing a cup final since 2013 when Real Madrid were beaten by Atletico Madrid in the Copa del Rey. And Ronaldo has been on a run of 14 consecutive runs in finals spanning 6 years and 3 different teams with Real Madrid, Portugal, and Juventus. The forward had endured a frustrating season following a reported falling out with Juventus boss Mauricio Sarri after being substituted in several games. And a lot of people criticized Ronaldo yesterday because shortly after the medal was given to him, that they said he was grumpy after the loss, and he just took off the medal and just tossed it aside. And people are saying that's unsportsman of him. There's pictures of him taking it off and just tossing it. That in the spirit of sportsmanship, we should always learn to take defeat as well as celebrate triumph. That the God complex that sometimes he shows in football doesn't send the right messages.
Well, but you can flip that and say that a man who is used to winning, I mean, 6 years, 14 games, 14, gold medals,
yes.
And then this happens. He has every reason to feel frustrated. It just shows that the genius is also a human being. He has his own poor.
But the point is, as a role model, you should always, you should be graceful in defeat.
Well, I'm trying to look at the other side. He's just saying that this is CR7. One of the best in the world in this game. Second position is not good for me. And, he played for 90 minutes.
Yes, he did.
He was there throughout. And he tried and tried and tried. He couldn't make any difference. So I look at it from a human side, that when the hero falls, he may behave in a way that you may not expect. However, CR7 is 34 years, right?
Yes.
He's nearing the end of his career as a footballer. But you will also need to learn lessons from the likes of Tiger Woods, who had
was down,
bad moments and he rose again.
True.
And also Serena Williams, who at a point looked like she had lost it.
Yes.
She still managed, to raise the level of her game. So what you can say to Cristiano Ronaldo is for him to realize that he's a human being. You win some, you lose some. You don't ever win forever.
Indeed.
All right. And also, some bad news actually came in yesterday, whereby the owner of a football club was Dr. Bernard Joman has finally been allowed to speak to his family 24 hours after he was kidnapped in the Abuja Okene Road. He actually is the owner of the Dynamo Football Club in Iyamo.
Finally, Aaron, you remember the Nigerian football team? You left Europe and came home. You deserve an applause. Even if the story is
a sad one.
Okay, before we get into that, it's really sad that the spate of kidnappings we've seen in football, be it Samson Yeboah Siasia's mother, who had been kidnapped at least 3 times. Or Mikel Obi's father, who had been kidnapped twice. Or other players who have seen their families and loved ones being kidnapped. Or even coaches, because Abdullahi Bifo, a Nigerian coach, was also kidnapped in the Abuja-Kaduna Road. And we're beginning to see them turn their attention to football, because maybe they see that football is quite lucrative and maybe there's cash easily. They're asking for 20 million for the man.
Yes, I think it's unfortunate, but it's not just about footballers being at risk or their family members or their coaches. I mean, virtually everyone in Nigeria is at risk. Kidnapping, has become one of the major challenges in this country in the last few years. And I think it's an indication of the economic crisis in the country, the crisis of poverty, the epidemic of empty pockets, and the disillusionment of the average citizen who thinks that the best thing to do is to take to crime. Yes, footballers and those associated with them will be easy targets because, as you said, it is assumed that they have access to cash, which may not be true. And that's why we continue to say that, particularly at this Yuletide season, the various security agencies, they need to do a lot more to secure lives and property. And it's very unfortunate. I hope that this Dynamo FC coach.
No, it's the owner.
It's even the owner.
The owner, that's the anticlimax of it, because you think that a man who is trying to probably
create
opportunities for young stars would not be...
And grow local football.
Yes.
But criminals
will not be an easy target.
but criminals do not moralize. because if they were to moralize, they would not be criminals.
True.
You know, and it's not every comfortable person or entrepreneur who takes enough precautions. And even those who take precautions, they're still at risk if they are targets by people who are criminally minded. So we'll call on the police to wade into this and to see how they can, you know, help to make sure that this man is rescued. You know, because the Nigeria police, you may complain about them, but they've recorded great successes in the past in similar cases. And if they really take it seriously, I believe that, you know, they can get him rescued. But it's not good in terms of optics, you know, and considering the fact that this is at a time when a lot of people are traveling around Nigeria, going home, going to their various home states for the Christmas festival.
Especially by roads, even as the tickets, flying tickets are skyrocketed as well. But it's also a call but it's also a call to the football community. Since this is becoming a trend and it's something we're seeing, we also need to be proactive.
How? Tell us.
We need to think ahead of the kidnappers.
There's a flashpoint that we've seen these things happen more to footballers than not. Of course, the Abuja-Okene Road is one of them. The Abuja-Kaduna Road have recorded more of these kinds. These trends have actually gone on in those roads more than any other roads for the footballing community. And I don't know whether, because they've tried to take precautions by probably having more armed policemen actually detail these footballers.
Police that is overstretched already.
Well, you know, Adeso, I think even sports analysts should take precautions. Particularly the ones that look prosperous, like
don't put me in trouble. Don't put me in trouble.
Because when they see you looking physically present and prosperous, they say, hey, this is the man that analyzes sports on television.
You rather sad. They just reminded me, there was an incident like that some years ago. The owner of Brilla FM, when he was still working with OGBC, when he was going to Ogun State, was abducted by some criminals who demanded that he actually paid some money to them. And after they had done that, they also told him to analyze. That's true. You talk sports. Analyze sports. Chelsea money. I told someone. Funny things we get.
So you see, nobody is safe.
Nobody is safe.
The agencies just have to do their job and protect all of us.
Yes, they have to. And I brought something to actually sweeten your mind, talking about bringing local stories. Because, like I say, if they make the headlines, certainly we'll bring them forward.
Yeah, that's good. We'd like to hear more about the Nigerian League
we'll
and about Nigerian players and how we can develop sports.
Yeah, most definitely.
In Nigeria, so that it's not always La Liga, Coppa Italia, Serie A, EPL, Champions League. Okay?
We'll do our best.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Always a pleasure.